All right, we're still on 2026, and believe it or not, we're getting closer and closer to being through chapter 6, going into 7 and 8. So there was quite a few this time in chapter 6, I'm starting to find out. But I think everybody will find all these pretty interesting. Some of them are like the same thing that we've been covering. You'll see. One of the things I found interesting was. Uh, we had a post by Jeffrey Byer saying, "Oh, it's not on there anymore. Y'all got it, blah blah blah." But funny he brings that up because we'll be looking at 62554 here in just a little bit. So,
Yeah.
but what they did here, they made a revision here to help clarify about permanently installed EVSC and WPTE. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get into this in just a little bit because uh, they've got new definitions that are going to touch base on some of what's taking place here. But what they're going to tell you here that they're required to have a disconnecting means and that it provides a limitation on your cord and plug connected EVSC and WPTE. Okay,
True.
so they
Which
make
is like that's what the whole thing what Bowers posted was
yeah,
that change.
and when you look at this, they put in here and they sort of fixed it in A here a little bit, but they say for cord and plug connected EVSC and WPTE with a rating not exceeding 60 amperes and not exceeding 150 volts to ground, the cord and plug shall be permitted to serve as what? A disconnecting means. Okay?
Right.
That goes without saying, and I've said that over and over and over. You know, there's a reason cord and plug connected always has, especially outside, you're going to have the Class A protection. Okay,
True.
because what happens there is the cord and plug connection is the disconnecting means. All right,
True.
and when you have just a, a, a disconnect assembly, I've always said that's not an outlet on the load side. And
True.
I said, you know, and what they've done here, in my opinion, is they've clarified this so there wouldn't be any misinterpretation. And
Yeah.
then they did emergency shutoff now. Now,
Okay.
we've already looked at this in some other areas where this has taken place. And they say where you have permanently connected EVSC or WPT, one or more clearly identified emergency disconnect devices or electrical disconnect shall be provided and meet the following. So it has to be installed in a readily accessible location and in sight from the equipment. So that means that you go look at uh, 110.29. They're going to tell you insight from, they move that from the definition and they tell you it's got to be within 50 foot. It
And
says,
I actually would like to have a moment of silence for me not getting you on that one. But no, the one thing that I think is interesting about this, can you use the GFCI device as that disconnect?
can you do what again? Can you use,
Can you use, so you have a Class A device on this, can you use that Class A device as that emergency disconnect?
well, the Class A devices, are you talking about cord and plug connected?
No, I'm talking about anything, like regardless, like you can use it as a disconnect, period.
Well, I'm trying to see where you're going with it because
Like, so it's saying
now
you're required to have a disconnect.
let me explain something here before we
Okay,
get into that because I think I have an idea where you're going, but
okay,
I'm gonna squash it real quick. Okay,
alright, that's fine.
so
I like it.
let's say I go out, you have a receptacle that's out there, you got a EVSE, your cord and plug connecting it, that's your disconnecting means. Now,
Yep,
I always said in order for you to have an outlet out there, you would have to take and put a box there, and then from that box go over to the EVSE, the box would be there. Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
and you would be installing that box prior to the EVSE.
that's right. Now, with this coming in, I think they realize what I was saying. I think a lot of people watch this podcast. Well, I know
Yeah.
they do because we've got. I mean, we've had over what I guess 15,000 views now. So I'm sure a lot of people watch us now. What happens if I put an emergency shut off out there, a disconnect? Now you don't have to worry about putting a box in front of it to have an outlet. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Now you
Sure.
got a listed device there. Now, if I have a listed device there, what ends up happening if I go, it's sort of like me going to an AC unit. If I go over there and I go to that EVSC, now where's the outlet? We know it's not on the load side of the disconnected mains. I've
Yeah, I
already proved that, isn't it?
100% agree, David. That's 100% true.
I agree too. 1,000,000%. It has to be one of those. Uh, you know, it, uh, they get in and they talk about outlets, and one of the things I'm going to show here in a little bit is we're going to look at 62554 on what is considered an outlet. Now, one of the things that I've always argued on this is I said, what is one thing all of them have in common? They have a box there. Okay.
Sure.
Now, this argument come up. I'm gonna give everybody uh, a little insight, some arguments I've had. Now, one of them asked me one time. This was a long time. What I would say this was probably about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Jeremy Weed asked me this question. He goes, "All right." He said, "Let's just say I come over and I have a switch, and I go from that switch and I go over to uh, a 2x4 fluorescent fixture or LED, whatever you want to say is up there, and I directly wire it from that switch." He goes, "Where's the outlet?" I said, "It's at the switch." He goes,
Sure.
what do you call the wiring after that? I said, "Let me ask you a question now."
But
I
you're
said,
not calling the load side terminals of the device the outlet.
"No, you're not. I'm calling the
That's the
box the outlet."
yeah.
Now, I said, "Let me ask you another question." I said, "If I have a switch there and I come up and let's say I have a box up there and I come out of that box with flex and go to the fixture." I said, "Where's the outlet?" He said, "At the fixture." I said, "Oh," I said, "but if I take and I have the fixture directly mounted to the box, now the outlet is at the box. Is that right? It's not at the outlet anymore." I said, "You can't pick and choose like that." And that's
Sure.
that's why I have a problem with it. You know, Picking and choosing where you want to put the location, I don't agree with that. And I've always maintained there's always a box at that location. And like David was just saying, if you got a device, let's just say it's a GFCI breaker, okay? If I go to the breaker, it's in some type of enclosure, isn't it? If I come over and I go to a receptacle, it's in some type of enclosure, isn't it?
Sure.
And if you notice, all of them have one thing in common: they got an enclosure of some type. Okay,
Sure.
and when you go look at the definition of receptacle outlet, what's it say? It says uh, where
A
the
device.
receptacles are mounted. They're not telling you the receptacle is a receptacle is a device. So
Yeah.
that means that the box is outlet. Now I'll take it one step further. If I go look at Article 314 and just look at the heading, what's the first word in there? Outlet.
Outlet boxes.
It says outlet, device, and junction boxes. Okay. Well, if I have a device box, first of all, why would they not say? Why would they have to put device? That's a good question. So if I have
Yeah, because
a
you don't even need a device box as long as it has a point on the wiring system.
yeah, no kidding. But the reason is because if I come over and have a switch and I'm going up to a box in the ceiling, where's my outlet? It's not at the switch, it's up here at the box. So
Sure.
therefore that means you have a device box over there. But yet
Yeah.
they clarify for you over here what is considered a, a, a ceiling outlet box. Well, they tell you the ceiling outlet box up there is where you're going to make the connections to in order to supply what? Your fixture. And
So
that,
what you're telling me here uh in this code change is basically everything green is new text
oh yeah.
to the 2026 proposed, not necessarily 2026. It's proposed
Well, it's
text.
proposed, and more than likely
Yeah.
this is going to go in, and it tells you it's got to have its markings and all that in accordance with 110.22a. It has to be a
Right.
manual reset type. Of course, it has to disconnect all your ungrounded phase conductors simultaneously, just like any
Nice.
disconnect. Okay,
Yeah.
so they've added this. Now check this out. Now you get into 625.54, and this is one thing I've brought up and they still won't answer. They argue with me constantly on it, but it says all receptacles and outlets installed for the connection of electric vehicle charging shall have GFCI protection for personnel. Now, let's
Sure.
look at that. I've asked this question. I said, can I take and go outside and put a receptacle out there, install it and everything with GFCI protection, then be able to come in and cord and plug connect EVSE to it? Sure, you can. Then I asked
Yeah.
this question: where is the outlet installed before I put in the EVSE equipment for when it's hardwired? And they said, oh, the outlet gets installed once you put the EVSE in. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
That and this was I forgot who come up or said this one time, and I agree with him 100%. Where does the outlet go if you ever get rid of the EVSC?
Sure.
Where's the outlet? I'm gonna throw it away. We no longer have an outlet, but I can get rid of the EVSC that's there, that's cord and plug connected. The outlet's still there installed.
Hey, and just letting you guys know, this was my public input for 2026. For some reason, they passed it. They're going with the code change.
For sure. Now this is one I have problem. They say the revision extends the personal protection of GFCI to hardwired EVSC. Well, sure
No,
it
it
does
doesn't.
if you have an outlet ahead of it. But if you're going to
Yeah,
put a
like
disconnecting means there, all of a sudden you don't have an outlet.
that's not gonna pass. I don't see that passing. Like, it's to me, it's too complicated. But I mean, that's fine. Like, I am actually, like I say, this is gonna be the ultimate, like, best second draft ever in my life. Like, like they're gonna have to define stuff like what David's saying is like a switch is a device.
That's right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's throw a switch in there, whatever. But to me personally, when you have this 62554 that says ground fault circuit interrupter protection is only provided for all receptacles that are installed for EVSE, and then you add outlets, and they're like, oh yeah, let's add outlets. It's like, to me, that complicates so many things. I mean, I'm fine if they're willing to do that. That's cool. I'd love to see it in there. I'd love to see the hoops and ladders and stuff they have to jump through to get that to work, but I don't see it working.
Sure.
That's just
And
me.
I'll give you another example of something. They were arguing with me, and does uh, chapter six? I said, does it supplement or modify chapters 1 through 4?
Um,
And they said, yeah, but what's that got to do with it? And I said, that is what gets me here, is you're picking and choosing again how you want to take and you want to apply this. And I said, I will give you a great example of exactly what I'm talking about. And I said, if I go over, I said, if you look at, I made this argument over and over. I said, You have to look at the NEC when they're taking and they're doing identification, listing, and labeling of equipment. Okay. And they said, the NEC overrides it. I said, okay, let me ask a question. I said, does it have to look that? He said, no. And I said, okay. I said, well, I'll just give you an example and you just tell me if you need to follow this. And I said, I'm going to keep it basic for you so you understand what I'm talking about. But if I go look at 314.101, it tells you there that when they're designing those metal covers, it tells you that it will not be less than 1/32 thick. Okay.
True.
Then it says, if it doesn't meet that, it says, or they shall be listed for the purpose. Okay.
True.
Now, I asked that question. I said, all right. I said, if I read that, are you telling me that when they do their testing standard and all that, they don't have to take that into consideration? And see, David, a while ago, and I want to give a real good example because he made a really, really, really good comment. And I'm going to go find it here real quick. Right here. He said 110.3A. Okay. When you go over and you look at Article 110 and you pick up 110.3A, what does it state there?
That is literally telling you you need to follow the listed and labeled manufacturer instructions. That is telling you right there the NEC does not override anything.
That's right. Because it says in 110.3A, the heading, it states something. I'm going off memory here, but it says examination, I think it's identification, installation, use, and listing of equipment. I think after listing, I think it has in parentheses, it says product certification. But when you pick that up and you start looking at examination, it says suitability for installation and use in conformity with this code. Okay.
And where does that go to? 90.4.
Well, sure. And And one of the things that I want to point out there, it says equipment may be new, reconditioned, refurbished, or remanufactured.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's telling you it's suitable for what? The installation. It's already, the code has already been taken into consideration. But look, but I'm going to take it just a little step further because I want everybody to see what I'm talking about here. If I look at A2, it says mechanical strength and durability, including for parts designed to enclose and protect other equipment, the adequacy of protection thus provided. So when you're looking at that, they're telling you that the metal, everything that's put together, it has to be of a strength and durability to enclose and protect the equipment. And plus, that takes and provides protection. But the one that gets me the most, and this is the most important one of all of this, and I'm going to say here, is it's the very bottom because all the rest they get into wire bending and connection space. You've heard me go over all of that stuff. But when I get to A9, it's the last one. It says other factors that contribute to the practical safeguarding of persons using or likely to come in contact with equipment. Now, if I'm designing my equipment, don't you think they would have taken into consideration the fact if whether or not they needed GFCI protection, if they're considering these other factors that contribute to the practical safeguarding of persons using or likely to come in contact with equipment?
True. Yeah.
I mean, you can't just pick and choose what you want to use out of this. And that's my whole point behind this. And then you get
what you're gonna run into, James, that really caught my attention, blew me away a little bit, was they're basing this off a tragic death from 2007, right? From a metallic utilization equipment, right? That a kid was killed on. Now they're trying to base the same thing for modern time for right now, and none of this equipment that we're using is metallic. It's not likely to become energized.
Well, sure. And 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 look at this. And this is something that I think is probably the most important. Is if you look after that, they have enhanced content there from NFPA on NFPA link. I just pulled it up and everything so I could read exactly everything that was said. It says other factors to consider when examining equipment for safety are special conditions of use. Okay, well, let's just take a look at that. Would requiring GFCI protection or not requiring it be a special conditions of use? Sure, it would. But I'm gonna
Yeah.
go a little further. It said also, which may include elevated or reduced ambient temperatures, special environmental limitations, stringent power quality requirements, and specific types of overcurrent protection devices. The additional information needed for such special cases, now this is my favorite part, could be marked on the equipment, included as part of the listing information found in the listing directory, or you'll love this, or included in the manufacturer's instructions furnished with equipment. So if they furnish it with the equipment and tell you no GFCI protection, that right there, the enhanced contents tell me I don't need it.
True.
And that's not my words or my opinion on anything. I'm just reading what they said there.
True.
Okay, but
Yeah.
anyway, we're gonna move on.
No,
We'll
dude,
get
you know,
stuck
the
all
truth
day.
hurts, man. No, and, like I say, I really love these code changes because, like I say, that was my public input, and I thought that all my public inputs are going to get rejected, but I guess not.
Yeah, I agree. Now, look at this one. This is new. This is dealing with those transport refrigerated units. Where you go out and you have an electrified. They call them electrified truck parking spaces. Okay,
Right.
where they come in and they've got a rig that comes in and the back of it and everything, it's refrigerated and everything. So what they're
Wow.
telling you here, they're talking about uh, this special purpose GFCI protection for personnel. And it says
Right.
electrified truck parking space equipment intended to supply transport refrigerated units, like I was talking about, shall be designed and constructed such that all receptacle outlets in 626.30 supplied by branch circuits that are rated not more than 150 volts to ground, 100 amps or less, shall be provided with special GFCI protection for personnel.
Nice.
Now, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, well, it's 100 amps or less, 150 volts or less to ground. Why do I need special GFCI protection? I mean, I could go in if I put a 15, 20 amp out there. That's what I need. Do I need special GFCI protection? I thought we needed Class A protection for anything that was outside.
So what they did was they did special not caring about nothing, and then they said that that would be okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
not okay on all the other places that's not compatible, but since they didn't test nothing, they don't have no way to check that one. So,
Yeah, what this goes back to what I've been saying for a long time. You got equipment that's not compatible, and there
yeah.
has to be technical merit required. And
To
this here,
me, to me personally, when I read that, that means they don't know.
well,
They're guessing. That's
I,
my that's what my take is on it. Is
I
they're guessing by saying, "Oh yeah, it should work on this."
well, I
Well,
will
if it
give them a
doesn't,
little
then
more
it doesn't. We
credit here
don't put.
because they realize Class A protection ain't going to work.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what I'm
and
saying.
but they made a statement, and I like what they did a little bit here. They say the requirement may be applied prior to January 1st, 2029, but is provided to allow for manufacturer development of products.
Yeah.
Now, I'm okay. with them doing something like this, realizing that they need some type of GFCI protection out there, but they realize the type of rigs and everything there, and they realize it's got to be special GFCI protection, which I will turn and say to code making panel two, you need to take notes on what this panel did because they realize Class A protection isn't going to work. Code making panel two just said Class A protection, and they didn't even do anything, any research, anything to realize they had a compatibility issue. You
Yeah,
see what I'm saying?
while I agree, I still feel that, like, to me personally, I think that SPGFCI needs more testing for like compatibility. Like you're only gonna lose two freezer trucks per month. Like then it's like, all right, let's figure out how we can not get people electrocuted. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. Like to me, it's really bizarre because, well, the problem that I have is that they base this off nothing. They base this off zero incidents. They base this off zero people getting electrocuted. They base this off nothing. There's no technical merit on these changes. Now, this code making panel might have like a refrigeration truck. Dude got hung up. This would be good to help out with that. I'm not dissing this at all. I don't know their incidents over there. I don't know what code making panel this is. I want to say it's code making panel 13, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe I'm not sure.
But um, to me, I'm not trying to diss on their numbers or anything. All I'm trying to say is that you have other code making panels that jump to conclusions and say, we got to do this, or else you're killing babies.
Well, the great thing
And
about this
that's rough.
is they're giving you basically 4 or 5 years here, and they're they're giving it time to allow for manufacturer development of products. They're saying we feel that we might want to put special GFCI on here, and you know, and they could move it further down the road while development's being done. But the
True.
main thing
Yeah,
is they just
that's a
didn't
really
come in and
valid point.
yeah,
That's a really good, valid point that they're not just hiding behind this rose bush of 2023, January 1st, 2023.
that's right. They've put it out quite a ways, and uh, I think that they're probably looking at it. And I'll say this: in order to know the development for their products and everything are due, that means there's going to be testing done on this, and to
True.
see what they really need based on the different rigs and stuff and what is compatible.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
that to me, that's pretty good. Now, this
Yeah.
is this is the one I was talking about earlier, and this is where we get into this is a brand new article, and it deals with electric self-propelled vehicle power transfer system. Okay,
Okay.
and what I want to sort of put out here is I just put what part one basically says, and I'm just going to talk about the scope. And I'm not going to worry about all this other stuff because I want to go. I'm going to tie this in the next slide with the definitions because they added
Okay.
three new definitions to this. And you remember me talking about this a lot. I mean, when I first started all this, we had this in the definitions.
Dude,
And
I'm so scared what my lawnmower is gonna do to me.
well, this
Like
is
it's,
interesting.
I'm
It,
not plugged into a GFCI. I guarantee that.
I wouldn't. But
It
it
will
says
come
this
after me.
article covers electrical conductors and equipment connecting an electric self propelled vehicle, an ESEV, to premises wiring for the purpose of charging, power export, or bidirectional current flow. Okay? Now, when you come in and look at this, I want you to see the definitions here. I think everybody will find this interesting. So, what is an electric self propelled vehicle? It's a vehicle or marine vessel other than an EV, such as farm equipment, boats, aircraft, and golf carts, primarily powered by an electric motor that draws current from a rechargeable storage battery, fuel cell, photovoltaic array, and other sources of electric current. Okay? That Basically,
It's
it's
other
everything
than an
self-propelled.
electric vehicle.
Do what?
It's other than an electric vehicle.
Yep, other than an electrical vehicle. They're
So
telling
it
you what
can't
it
be an
is.
electric vehicle.
Then what?
It can't be an electric vehicle then if it's other than an electric vehicle.
Yeah, they tell you such as farm equipment, boats, aircraft, and golf carts.
Okay.
So primarily powered by what? An electric motor.
All
Okay.
right.
Then they get into electric self-propelled vehicle power export equipment. It says the equipment, now look at here, including the outlet. Now this is interesting. They're telling you it's already including an outlet for the equipment.
Do you
Okay.
know why?
Yeah, because that is the outlet.
Because the fucking standard already includes all that.
Well, I know it does.
It already says it includes all that, and they're not looking at the NEC to go, what's a printed circuit? What the hell is? They don't care about that. They say, you guys bring us power and we'll turn it on.
Oh yeah. But I like it because they tell you, including the outlet on the electric self-propelled vehicle that is used to provide electric current at voltages greater than or equal to 30 volts AC or 60 volts DC to loads external to the ESV using the vehicle as a source of supply. Okay, then they got an
Oh, okay.
informational note there, so it ties in. Now,
Oh, dude, thanks
have
for
a good
joining
night,
us,
brother.
David. Really appreciate it. You have a good night, and we'll chat with the electric wizardry on another stream. Thanks for joining tonight.
Now, look at this equipment. This is your electric self-propelled vehicle supply equipment. It says equipment for plug-in charging, including, now watch this, including the ungrounded, grounded, and equipment grounding conductors and the electric self-propelled vehicle connectors, attachment plugs, personal protection system, and other fittings, devices, power outlets. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay. Or other apparatus installed specifically for the purpose of transferring energy between the premise wiring and the electric vehicle. So now, what are you going to tell me? I'm going to transfer the energy over to it, and I'm going to have an outlet over here, and now I'm going to have a power outlet here too. You're going to tell me I've got two outlets?
You
You
can't.
see what I'm
It's
talking about?
impossible. You can't have 2 points where current is taken to supply two utilization equipments
No,
or just one utilization equipment.
that's right. And that's why I wanted to look at that. I want everybody to see exactly what I was been complaining about for a long time. You can't
Sure.
pick and choose where you want to apply something. Okay.
Exactly.
Now, what they did here is they revised this section, and what this is getting into is grateful for the man. Thank you. Yeah, I'll be getting this one up probably by Saturday. But this deals with your critical operation data systems. And what they did, this gets into your selected coordination here. And what they did is what they've done in a lot of the others is talk about whenever you got a critical operation data system here and you replace the overcurrent protection devices, guess what you got to do? You got to reevaluate them to ensure that the selected coordination matches up again, right?
True.
And they tell you to do the same thing if you do any type of modifications. So there, and I think what we have, we had two other sections where we had this type of change that took place in this
True.
cycle. So they're making
Yeah.
sure the selected coordination on all these different systems matches up.
So
And then,
just to let everyone know, like in layman's terms, like if you do like selected coordination, what we want is like if you have a short circuit incident, we want that short circuit incident to happen locally within that part of the circuit. We don't want it to affect the whole entire circuit. So that's the whole importance of selected coordination.
sure. Now, one of the things I like here, this is where you get into equipment rooms, vaults, and pits. And they did some changing here just to make sure where these receptacles are required. But the main thing is they want GFCI protection or SPGFCI, special GFCI protection. Okay. And if you look, number one's still the same. It says you got to have at least one GFCI protected 125 volt, 15 or 20 amp receptacle shall be located within an equipment room. And then they tell you the same thing where you have all other receptacles within an equipment room, vault, or pit. They're either going to be GFCI protected or special GFCI protected. And then they give you your options there based on your voltage to ground. Okay.
Sure.
And what it is for three phase, it doesn't exceed 480 volts, three or phase to phase.
Right.
Okay. But what I want to point out there, they don't say anything about an outlet there, do they?
Nope.
No, they're saying the receptacle, and that they want to make sure that receptacle is installed, has GFCI protection. They're not telling you the outlet in this case. Okay.
Yeah, it would be too impossible for them to try to do that.
Sure it would. And then look what they did. Then they come in and then they look at your lighting receptacles and equipment. Now, the one that we just looked at before, what did it deal with? It dealt with your equipment rooms, vaults, and pits. And then if you look, they did the same type of language here where they're dealing with the receptacles and talking about the receptacles have to be GFCI protected if they're located within what? 20 foot.
Yeah.
Okay. And now this would be interesting because let's just say that you have an AC unit out there. It's within 20 foot. I need SPGFCI there? No, because there is no outlet. And the reason is because here they're specifically only talking about what? Receptacles.
Yep.
They're not talking about an outlet.
They're going to try to say that's an outlet, that's an outlet, that's an outlet. But if it's not an outlet, it doesn't matter. They can't call it an outlet. Like these guys are going to be arguing this till like the end of time because they lost an argument. And that bothers them.
Well, sure. And
me, I don't care. I'm like, whatever. If I lost, I lost. But they're saying, you didn't have nothing to do with the myth list on this group. And I was like, dude, whatever. I was like, I've continued the myth list since the minute that we started doing it.
And well, what was it? We got like 50 before. Now we're like at 120 something.
It was less than 50 in my opinion, but it's at like 130 now.
Yeah. See, they don't want to consider what's been done. They just want something to gripe about. So,
exactly.
Anyway, that was my last one for tonight. But the thing I wanted to point out more than anything is there when we're dealing with the GFCI protected swimming pools, it specifically said receptacles. It didn't say anything about outlets.